Right now, as you're watching this video, three countries you've probably never thought twice about are sitting on enough military infrastructure, strategic positioning, and war preparation to literally determine the outcome of World War III. And the craziest part, they've been doing this in complete silence, while everyone else has been distracted by the loud players. We're not talking about the United States, Russia, or China. We're talking about nations that have quietly built capabilities so sophisticated that when the next global conflict breaks out, these three will control choke points, resources, and strategic positions that could make or break entire alliances. No threats, no propaganda, just cold, calculated preparation that's been decades in the making. And honestly, most people have zero idea just how ready these countries actually are for what might be coming. Let me start with the one that'll blow your mind the most. Switzerland. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Neutral Switzerland? The country famous for chocolate, banks, and staying out of everyone's business? Here's the thing though, Swiss neutrality has never meant Swiss weakness. It's meant Swiss preparation on a level that's honestly terrifying when you actually look at the numbers. Switzerland has built enough nuclear shelter space to protect every single one of its 9 million citizens. Not most of them, not the wealthy ones, every single person. We're talking 365,000 individual bunkers scattered across the entire country. And this isn't some half-hearted civil defense measure. These are legitimate survival facilities with air filtration, medical equipment, food storage, and communication systems designed to function for months after the surface world is destroyed. But wait, it gets crazier. The Swiss haven't just built bunkers for people. They've literally hollowed out their mountains and turned them into military fortresses. Artillery positions, command centers, hospitals, ammunition depots, all carved into solid rock and connected by underground networks that could sustain military operations long after conventional infrastructure is gone. And they test this stuff regularly, like actually run drills where entire communities practice evacuating into these facilities. This isn't theoretical, it's operational, right now, ready to go at a moment's notice. Now here's where Switzerland's strategy gets really interesting for any World War III scenario. Their geographic position puts them smack in the middle of Europe, surrounded by NATO countries and potential conflict zones. If war breaks out, Switzerland becomes this weird neutral zone that both sides desperately need. Their banking system holds trillions in assets from countries across the globe, which gives them leverage that goes way beyond military force. Switzerland isn't preparing to fight in World War III. They're preparing to survive it and possibly become the place where it ends. That's a completely different game than anyone else is playing. And the fact that they've been at this for decades tells you they're thinking way further ahead than most nations. The Swiss military itself is relatively small at around 140,000 when fully mobilized, but that number is seriously misleading. Switzerland has one of the highest gun ownership rates on Earth because of their militia system. Almost every adult male has done military service and keeps their rifle at home. Imagine trying to invade a country where basically the entire population has military training and weapons. Plus, and this is wild, the Swiss have rigged their entire infrastructure with demolition charges. Bridges, tunnels, mountain passes. They can blow all of it up if an invasion starts, making their country essentially impassable while they disappear into their mountain fortresses. That's not paranoia. That's preparation taken to an extreme that makes everyone else look unprepared. Now let's talk about country number 2. And this one's going to surprise you. Singapore. A city-state smaller than New York City, sitting in Southeast Asia, and yet they've built one of the most advanced and capable militaries in the entire region. Singapore spends roughly $11 billion annually on defense, which might not sound like much until you realize that's about 3% of their GDP. For a nation of only 6 million people, that translates to one of the highest per capita military expenditures on the planet. The Singapore Armed Forces can mobilize 300,000 personnel through their national service system, meaning this tiny island can deploy a military force 50 times what its size would suggest. But Singapore's preparation isn't just about numbers. It's about technology and strategic positioning. That's honestly genius when you think about it. Singapore operates F-35 stealth fighters, the same cutting-edge aircraft the United States flies. Their navy includes modern submarines and littoral combat vessels specifically designed for the shallow, complex waters of Southeast Asia. This isn't a defensive force just hoping to hold borders. This is an offensive, capable military that could project serious power throughout the region if necessary. And here's what makes Singapore absolutely critical in any World War III scenario: geography. Singapore sits at the Strait of Malacca, one of the most strategically important locations on Earth. About 1/3 of all global maritime trade passes through this narrow waterway, including roughly 80% of China's oil imports. If you control Singapore, you control one of the world's most vital economic choke points. In any conflict between China and the West, Singapore's position becomes crucial. They've been preparing for this reality by fortifying their ports, expanding naval capabilities, and building redundant infrastructure that can keep functioning even under attack. Singapore's leadership has explicitly stated they don't believe the era of great power peace will last forever, and they've been acting accordingly. They've constructed massive underground ammunition storage facilities, created redundant command systems, and invested heavily in food and water security that would allow them to function independently even if all trade stopped. For a tiny island with virtually no natural resources, that level of preparation is remarkable. Singapore knows they can't afford to be caught off guard. And honestly, they might be more ready for major conflict than countries 10 times their size. Country number 3 is the Netherlands. And yeah, I know that sounds weird. The land of windmills and liberal drug policies doesn't exactly scream military powerhouse. But the Dutch have been quietly positioning themselves as a critical player in any potential European conflict, and their preparations are way more sophisticated than most people realize. The Netherlands maintains one of the most professional and technologically advanced militaries in Europe, operating advanced frigates, F-35 stealth fighters, and command systems that integrate seamlessly with NATO forces. Here's what makes the Netherlands special, though. They're the logistics hub of Europe. Rotterdam is the largest port in Europe and one of the busiest in the world. If World War III breaks out in Europe, Rotterdam becomes absolutely critical for moving troops, equipment, and supplies. The Dutch have been reinforcing infrastructure, expanding port facilities, and creating redundant systems that would allow military logistics to continue even under sustained attack. Without Rotterdam functioning, NATO's ability to respond to aggression from the east gets seriously compromised. The Netherlands has also been investing heavily in cyber defense and hybrid warfare capabilities. They've recognized that modern conflict isn't just tanks and jets anymore. It's about protecting infrastructure, communications, and digital systems from sophisticated attacks. Dutch cyber units have been actively involved in identifying and countering Russian disinformation campaigns and cyber attacks throughout Europe. They're not waiting to be attacked. They're already defending against threats that are happening right now, which shows awareness that's honestly impressive. Geographically, the Netherlands sits at a critical junction in Western Europe, with direct access to the North Sea and borders with Germany and Belgium. In any NATO response to aggression, Dutch territory becomes essential for staging and logistics. The Dutch government has been quietly expanding military facilities, improving transportation infrastructure, and coordinating with allies to ensure they can support large-scale operations if necessary. They've also been modernizing reserves and civil defense systems, preparing their population for disruptions that could come with major conflict. What ties all 3 of these countries together is that they're preparing through action, not words. They're not making threats or beating war drums. They're methodically, quietly getting ready for a scenario everyone hopes never happens, but that they're taking deadly seriously. Switzerland is preparing to survive and potentially mediate. Singapore is preparing to control a critical strategic location while defending itself against any aggressor. The Netherlands is preparing to serve as the logistics backbone for Western military operations. These 3 nations represent different approaches to World War III preparation, but they share one crucial thing. They're taking the threat seriously, while everyone else is distracted by social media arguments and political theater. They've assessed the geopolitical landscape, identified their vulnerabilities and strengths, and made concrete investments in preparation. And here's the sobering part. The fact that these relatively small countries are preparing this extensively suggests they're seeing warning signs that most people aren't grasping. Real talk. What these countries are doing should be a massive wake-up call. When neutral Switzerland maintains nuclear bunkers for every citizen, when tiny Singapore builds a military that could hold off regional powers, when peaceful Netherlands fortifies its role as Europe's logistics hub, these aren't random decisions. These are calculated responses to a changing world order, where great power conflict isn't just possible anymore, but increasingly likely. These nations have looked at where things are heading and decided that hoping for the best isn't good enough. They're preparing for the worst while working for peace. which honestly is probably the smartest strategy there is. The quiet preparation happening in Switzerland, Singapore, and the Netherlands might actually be more significant than all the loud posturing from superpowers. Because when conflict actually begins, it won't be the countries that talk the biggest game that matter most. It'll be the ones that were genuinely ready. And right now, these three countries are showing what serious preparation actually looks like. They're not waiting to see what happens. They're ready for whatever comes next, positioned at critical strategic points, and capable of influencing outcomes in ways that would surprise most people. Whether the rest of the world is paying attention is another question, but these three nations will absolutely be critical players in determining how any future global conflict unfolds. They've done the work in silence, and that silence might be the loudest warning we're all ignoring.